This is the Lenovo Tab4 8 Plus, a premium 8-inch tablet with a lot of nice features. Stick around to find out. It's TechWizTime. Hey guys, hope you're having a great week. My name is Jonathan and this is TechWizTime, where I do technology tutorial and review videos. And in this video I'm going to be looking at the Lenovo Tab4 8 Plus. Now this premium tablet was sent out to me by Geekbench, so I'd like to thank them for that. And as always, thoughts and opinions are my own and no money has exchanged hands. So let's get into the unboxing and let's have a look at what's inside. So the box is really nice. We'll put the actual meat and potato aside. So we've got a little sticker there and an instruction book. Inside it's all compartmentalized, which is really nice. This is a common feature these days with tablets and TV boxes and so forth out of China. In the middle we've got warranty information and so forth in another language. Over to the side we've got the Lenovo USB charger there. It's 5 volt 2 amp. And across to the other side we've got a USB-C charge cable. Awesome! And next up is the tablet itself. And the first thing I've seen is that it is a little bit of a fingerprint magnet. So that's not too bad though. Overall though, really nice. And one thing I really like is that IPS panel that's really crisp and clear, and the colors are awesome. Let's talk specs. When it comes to ports on the Lenovo Tab4 8 Plus, you've got USB-C up the top here and a 3.5mm headphone jack. Over on this side here is where underneath the Lenovo Tab is the SD card slot. It's a nice feature where it's not actually exposed to the world and it's not a SIM card tray, so just something a little bit different, but works pretty well with this tablet. Then across on this side, you've got the volume rocker switch up and down, and this is interesting, this is the power switch here. So one of the unique features of this tablet is that it's got a fingerprint sensor, and that's built into the power switch. So all you need to do is just put your finger over it, and boom, you're into your tablet. How awesome is that? And one of the other features that I'll show you here is this has stereo speakers inbuilt. So you've got one up the top here and one down the bottom here. So that's another good feature that isn't in a lot of tablets out there. So good job Lenovo. So inside the Lenovo Tab4 8 Plus is the Snapdragon 625. Now that's an 8-core processor running at about 2 GHz. This particular one has 64 GB of onboard storage as well as 4 GB of RAM. DDR3 though. Bluetooth comes in at version 4.2, which is interesting, and Wi-Fi comes in at 5 GHz, so you've got your AC there. It's running Android 7.1.1, and unfortunately it is not rooted. The internal battery size is 4,850 mAh, which is rated to last around 10 hours. The front camera is 5 megapixels, whereas the rear camera is 8 megapixels. And the display is an 8-inch IPS 1920 by 1200 display. So really nice, crisp and clear. With specs out of the way, let's look at some benchmarks. So I used the program A1SD Bench to figure out how fast the internal and the SD storage goes. So in this instance, the internal read speed is 208 megabytes per second, whereas the internal write speed is 149 megabytes per second. When it comes to the SD card slot, however, it is using the older USB 2.0 chipset by the looks of it, because we're getting a 30 megabyte per second read rate and a 7 megabyte per second write rate. And the RAM speed comes in at 5,408 megabytes per second, so not too bad. Next up is the Wi-Fi speed test, and this is just using the speed test app. And here you'll see using the AC Wi-Fi that we're getting 151 megabits per second download and 69 megabits per second upload. So not too bad. Next up is some Antutu. So Antutu just gives us some scores based on the CPU and GPU and so forth. So looking at the scores here, we can see that the overall score is 60923 with a 3D score of 12718, UX score of 23339, a CPU score of 20372, and a RAM score of 4494. Next up we've got Geekbench, and here you can see that the single core score is 780, whereas the multi-core score is 3284. Now an extra score that I've done with this one, because it has a battery, is the battery life score. And doing the partial discharge, which is a 3-hour test, we get a score of 3,493. And based on that sort of usage, it does work out to be about 10 hours of usage, so not too bad on their claims. Next up in the benchmarks is 3D Mark. And I've tested a few ones here. So we've got Slingshot Normal, and that one comes out at 819. Then we move on to Slingshot Extreme, and that gives us a score of 460. Next up, we've got the Ice Storm benchmark, and that one comes in at 12190. And lastly, Ice Storm Extreme, and that one comes in at 8151. Some pretty good scores. Okay, so now on to some real life tests. And streaming wise, this thing can stream Netflix very comfortably at the 1080p resolution. And the YouTube app itself does stream at 1080p. However, when playing a 4K file, it won't actually go above this. So 1080p is the limit here. Next up, I did a bunch of media tests. Now this is just to see what sort of codecs it'll play back and at what speed and so forth. So all these files were tested using Kodi, and I did test it on the SD card as well as through the Wi-Fi. And it made no difference in this circumstance. So Big Buck Bunny was played back at 4K resolution, 30 frames per second, using the H.264 codec, and that was coming back at the 30 frames per second. But when I tried to play back the 60 frames per second file, unfortunately it stuttered and really didn't get far, so this won't be able to play 60 frames per second 4K files. Next up is the Jellyfish Test, and this is where we test out different bit rates for different 4K files. Now the first one up is 55 megabits per second, and that one played back fine. But when it came to the 140 megabit per second, 200 megabit per second, or the 400 megabit per second files, these just really didn't work at all. So if you're playing back low bitrate files, then you should be fine here. All right, so that's media out of the way. Let's have a look at gaming. So when it comes to the PSP emulator, PPSSPP, we can see that Power Stone plays back at about 40 to 50 frames per second, depending on the level and depending on how much is going on screen. So not too bad and pretty playable. But when it comes to God of War, of course, this is always the one that just craps out. So when you're looking at God of War, we're only getting between 10 and 20 frames per second, which is better than a lot of the devices that I've tested so far, but it's still not what I would call 100% playable. So unfortunately, it will play a lot of PSP games, but God of War is unfortunately out. As something a little bit different, I've chosen to test out some Dreamcast games as well, just to see how they run. And in Raycast, we can see that Sonic Adventure plays back at about the 60 frame per second limit, which is fantastic for all those Sonic fans out there. The classic Dreamcast game Shenmue, it runs at 30 frames per second, which is the limit. And then when we come to Soul Calibur, we are getting the 60 frames per second there, roughly. It does dip a little bit, but that's Soul Calibur for you. Next up is some PSX games, or PlayStation 1, whichever way you want to say it. And we're using the emulator FPSE here. We can see that Final Fantasy VII gets its full 60 frames per second, which is great for those fans. Metal Gear Solid comes in at the 60 frames per second as well, so that's fantastic, especially for those stealthy sessions. And lastly, Tekken 3, that one comes in between 50 and 60 frames per second, so still really playable, but just keep in mind that you're gonna have some drop frames there every now and then. So what do I think of this Lenovo Tab4 8 Plus tablet? Well, for its price, which is around $269, there will be a coupon code down in the description to get a little bit cheaper. It's not bad for a premium tablet. Like, you're gonna pay more for an iPad, yes. And this is only an 8-inch one, so it's like an iPad mini, you might as well say. And with the features that it's got and the power behind it, it is not bad for a $249 tablet. If I had to be picky, the fingerprint sensor, I don't actually know why they've included it with it. For some people, it will be, you know, it's in a good position when you're holding the tablet to unlock it really quickly. For other people, they're probably not going to find a lot of use for the fingerprint sensor. So if you are one of those people that are looking for it, then yeah, that's great. If you're not too interested, then it's probably a feature that you're not going to be really looking at. So with that said, have you ever used any of the Lenovo Tab tablets before? Let me know down in the comments and let me know your experiences, because this is my first one and I'd like to know what you think. Thanks a lot for watching this video. If you're not a subscriber, then make sure you do. If you are a subscriber, then make sure you hit that bell icon so you get notified of new videos whenever they come out. If you can like and share this video with as many people as you think would enjoy this, then that would be great and really help this channel to grow. And as always, imagine, learn, create.